history buff myself to just do something this heinous. Let me tell you about the Nazis. I do get it because it normally comes down to greed and corruption and those types of things that is contaminated with HIV. Okay, listen, I don't want anybody to be triggered over anything. I want you to focus on the story. So I was watching the Joe Rogan Experience. And yeah, he has a guest on, and I should probably look up this dude's name. His name is Barham Buehler, and he's the founder of Ways to Well, a functional and regenerative care clinic. But anyway, so he's on there, and he's telling a couple of stories about like medical history, right? Because he's a believer that people should, know your history. That's the only way to move forward. I'm a history buff myself. History buff. Anyway, so he starts talking about these stories about Bayer. There's a really crazy story about like Nazis and all this other stuff, but I'm not going to talk about that one. Thank you for watching the video. Definitely be sure to give it a like, follow, subscribe if you like the type of material that I'm talking about, and leave a comment if you want to suggest something for me to talk about in the future. But I got some merch for you. So all of my merch is going to be pretty politically or socially motivated. It's going to be a commentary about different things that are happening right now. But there are definitely some people that want to make a statement. So this is America Homelessness, a tent city in front of the nation's Capitol building, because that's where we're going. If you go through Washington, D.C., any major city, you're going to see tons of homelessness, and it sucks. This one is called To Serve and Protect. So here we have a teacher walking up and down the aisles of a classroom with an assault rifle, protecting and teaching her students at the same time, because we have unrealistic expectations in this country about how we are going to protect our children in these instances. And I think it's ridiculous that people have even recommended that we give teachers guns. That's not what they're there for. They're there to serve our children, not necessarily to protect them in that way. We should find other ways to do that. But before I go off on a rant, yeah, it's a awesome shirt and you should buy it. So that's it. Thanks for watching the video. But he talks about this one drug that Bayer makes for hemophilia patients, and there's like a large batch of it that is contaminated with HIV. This is like, what is this? This is early 70s, I think it is, 80s, something like that. But what's wild is that instead of just, they're contaminated with HIV, destroy all of it and make new, they sold that to Latin America and Asia for years after they had started, making sure that the Western markets had new, safe, medications, right? New batches, right? So let me go ahead and read this for you. This is from NIH, and it's hemophilia patients launch action against Bayer over contaminated blood products. Now, keep in mind, this is from 2003, but I heard this story and I was like, I'm not just going to believe it. I have to look this up. This sounds crazy, but it's actually very true. And I just don't recall hearing about it at the time, probably because it was in school. So hemophilia patients launch action against Bayer over contaminated blood products. A class action lawsuit has been launched against Bayer and Baxter corporations on behalf of people with hemophilia in Asia and Latin America who contracted HIV or hepatitis through contaminated blood products supplied by the companies. Talks about some other people that were in the lawsuit. All four companies were accused of distributing contaminated blood products in Asia and Latin America in 1984, 1985, even after such products were taken off of the U.S. market because of fears that they had not been properly screened for HIV and hepatitis C. While a true screening test for the virus did not exist at the time, careful screening of donors could have minimized the risk the suit contends. The lawsuit further alleges that the companies brought blood and plasma from the high-risk groups of people, including prisoners, injecting drug users, and promiscuously gay men. The lawsuit also found that by the mid-1990s, most of the 4,000 people in Japan with AIDS were hemophiliac people, and that nearly all of the cases were linked to the contaminated clotting factors to the United States. So America still exports We export mega churches. We export our MAGA brand of nationalism. I mean, we provide the world with the best things, don't you know? It says here, in the mid-1990s, the four companies paid out $640 million in damages to settle a similar lawsuit. This is just all ridiculous. I cannot believe that the company would even be allowed to remain in existence. Are you kidding me? I mean, we learned during COVID that we don't really make a lot of the medications that we need in this country. I just don't get it. I mean, I do get it because it normally comes down to greed and corruption and those types of things. But, I don't even know why Bayer is allowed to remain in existence. To do something this heinous. Let me tell you about the Nazi thing real quick. So I haven't really looked into this yet. I know that the parent company of Bayer, they worked with the Nazis during World War II, and the story is that they requested 150 women for some type of clinical trial of something. And definitely research this, because this is just me secondhand saying this particular part. But they needed 150 women for a clinical trial. So the Nazis sent over 150 Jewish women. And shortly after that, the parent company messaged the Nazis again for a request for 150 more women, because they reported that the previous 150 that they sent died in the trials. So, I mean, just to have a history like that, to be given a pass, and now it's like you have something like this happen. Like, this is not just from that past history, but this is just greed and corruption, and I'm just tired of these things. I just wish people would just go after things directly. Why? There's too much corruption. People are too close to these companies that are in the government, and there needs to be a tremendous divide.